We're here today to try and cover probably 4 hours of content in 30 minutes. So I'm going to try and go fast, try and not maintain the pattern of going over time. But I'm here today to talk about Windows containers, HyperV, and OpenStack, which is probably not what you're expecting to hear about at this event. So hopefully we can surprise you a bit and give you some new information. But before we get into the technical content, I thought I would do a quick introduction of who are these people on stage. So I'm Ben Armstrong. I'm a program manager at Microsoft, and I've been working on virtualization forever now, officially. I actually started working on virtualization in 2000. Worked for a company that Microsoft acquired, and I've been at Microsoft since 2003 working on various virtualization technologies. And right now, I'm busy working on the next version of HyperV and on Windows containers. Yes, which we successfully launched yesterday. I had to send these guys a note saying, like, I am going to come in late because I haven't slept in days. So it launched yesterday. It all works. We have people on our forum saying it works. I'm a very happy man. So Alessandro, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Alessandro. I'm the CEO of Cloudbase Solutions. We take care of all the integration between actually what this guy produces and the OpenStack world, okay? So basically all the Nova drivers, Neutron, OpenVSwitch porting to Windows and HyperV, Cloudbase init, which is the Windows Cloud init, and more, okay, as you will see later on. Okay.
Fantastic. So agenda for today, and I am going to try and speed through this. We're going to chat about Windows containers, what they are, what we've been doing, what's happening in the world of HyperV, what we've been doing with OpenStack integration, what we've been doing with Docker integration. We'll talk about some rude questions, and then we'll take some friendly questions. I'm not taking rude questions. I've written those down so we can get those covered. So Windows containers. This is really exciting. As I said, we've launched our first public preview yesterday. Quick show of hands. How many people here are actually using containers in their environment today? A very excited person over there. How many people have heard about containers, know that they need to know more, but don't really understand how they should be using them in their environment? Couple of hands. How many people, you have a good idea what containers are, but you haven't figured out how you should use them in your environment yet? So we've got a good cover of the range. You know, most people are somewhere on that spectrum. So we're really excited to come out with Windows containers. We think that containers are going to be one of the key technologies for application and infrastructure moving forward. So what we've done is we've actually been working very deeply in a lot of the core technologies in kernel and virtualization to enable the same sort of container concepts and approaches as we've had on Linux in the Windows world as well. And the key thing to highlight here is, because a lot of people get confused about this, this isn't about running Linux on Windows or Windows on Linux. It's about allowing you to be really efficient in getting multiple instances of Windows running on the Windows kernel. There's also a lot of extra work we've been doing here. So the preview that we've just provided is what we're calling Windows Server Containers, which is very analogous to LXC, which is the prevalent technology today. The exciting thing is we've also announced that we've been working on HyperV containers. That is not in this first preview, but that is something we're hoping to preview soon. We've actually officially said we'll be doing that by the end of this year. And you heard Paul earlier on today talking about some of the security concerns about containers in an enterprise environment. Well, HyperV containers are where we're aiming to provide the flexibility and lightweight nature of containers coupled with the isolation and the security promise of a hypervisor. So with that, I'm going to break another pattern today. I'm a big fan of demos. So I'm going to put my, thank you. I'm going to put my microphone down, and I'm going to jump over to do a demo. It's the warning from the sound guy to say I'm putting that down. So let's do a quick demo and just show you what Windows containers look like. So actually, for full disclosure, I have a bunch of virtual machines behind here, and a bunch of my demos, I'm going to be remotely managing these. So for this demo, I have this PowerShell Windows container virtual machine running. It's running the latest version of Windows Server in it. And because I hate watching people make typos, I have all my stuff here. Actually, for this demo, I need to bring this up. So let's connect to this virtual machine, type in my password. So this is latest version of Windows Server. It's a server core installation, which means I don't have any shell or desktop experience. This is just for running server applications. But this has already had the container role configured. You can see I have a base image in there for Windows Server. And I'm going to just very quickly grab these 3 lines, which are going to create a container, start the container, and then jump into the container. So key thing to highlight, so this is, here's my IP address for this virtual machine and how it's configured. I'm going to throw that in there. That's created a container. It's starting it up, and this is actually booting an entirely separate instance of Windows that quickly. And now I'm going to jump into it, and what you'll see is I'm now inside a different instance of Windows. If I run ipconfig, it's got a different IP address. Once I'm in here, I can actually go ahead and install applications. So these 3 lines here will download Nginx, extract it, and exit the container. So I've now put those files in here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop that container, and I'm going to create a new image layer that has the Nginx components in it. And what this means is that if I want to create a rapid number of web servers using Nginx, I can just do that over and over. So if I grab the next couple of lines of code, let's be really lazy. I'm going to grab all of these. I'm going to run them. And what this does is it says, hey, create a new container using that image layer I just, microphone. Create a new container using the image layer that I just used, jump into it, start the Nginx process. And that quickly, I've started up a new version of Windows, and I now have a web server running. So it's really amazing, like the sort of flexibility and rapid deployment and iteration at scale that this sort of technology enables. So let's throw all that away and jump back. I do apologize for going so quickly, but I do want to not go over time. So next thing to quickly talk about is HyperV. Quick show of hands. How many people here have HyperV somewhere in their environment? Okay, that's actually higher than I was expecting. Another show of hands. How many people here have VMware? Okay, how many people are purely running on KVM or Xen and have no proprietary hypervisors at all? Okay, that's about the breakdown I was expecting. So there are a couple of things I want to point out. For people who haven't been keeping track of HyperV, we have been working on it, and it has been getting better. There's actually a lot of really cool functionality in it. I really encourage you to go check out, especially the last couple of releases. HyperV and Windows Server 2012 was a huge release for us, and in 2012 R2, we've added even more functionality, and we're continuing to invest in that, and it's definitely worth looking into. However, one of the things I'd really like to highlight on this is we're actually doing a lot better in market share than most people believe. So right now, HyperV is the second most popular virtualization platform in the enterprise. The most popular is VMware, then HyperV, then KVM. That's what the numbers are saying for enterprise deployments. And more interestingly, when we talk to the analysts and we start looking at some of the cross-industry stuff, where we say like, okay, what about public cloud? What about private cloud? Microsoft is one of the few companies that is actually called out as being in a leading position in all of the segments here. And this is something that we actually view as a real strength. It's like, hey, we can actually start building solutions that help you bridge across these different environments. So with that in mind, I'm going to hand across to Alessandro, who's going to step us through all the stuff that his company's been doing to help us work with OpenStack.
Okay, thanks a lot. So check out HyperV. One thing that Ben didn't say is that you can also download a free SKU of HyperV and just test it, okay? And very important, you can also run it side by side, especially in OpenStack Cloud with VMware, KVM, or whatever you have, okay? So you don't have to have a cloud which is entirely only HyperV based. Well, I don't think I have to go through the concepts here, okay? This is the basic architecture for OpenStack. So where are we positioned, actually, Hyper-V? We have Nova Compute drivers. We have Neutron. We have Cinder for storage, okay? We have Manila coming this year, okay? Hopefully, we're going to have Magnum pretty soon as well. That's also for the containers. The containers are, by the way, an amazing job, okay? I'm so happy that now are finally publicly available, so everybody can just play with them, okay? So can't wait, actually, to get it also inside of an OpenStack deployment. Okay, next. Hyper-V Nova Compute. So we wanted to make it extremely easy for everybody. So the idea is that there is an installer that you can just download from our side. It does actually contain the code which is available upstream. So we are the contributors. We are contributors in the OpenStack community. And let's say we take care of all the Windows Hyper-V bits, as we said before. So we will find there all the Nova upstream bits, plus, of course, some additional bug fixes and whatever, okay, that you might find in a high-quality downstream release, okay? The code is extremely stable, very mature. We started, actually, this work back in fall. So, I mean, seems a long time ago, but it's actually only 3 years. 3 crazy years, actually. So just download it, install it. It will create a Windows service, but behind the scenes, you will find the same identical Python code that you will find on Linux, okay? You can find a list here of important features which are coming. It's true that hypervisors are commoditized nowadays, right? Okay. So in the end, if you want a virtual machine, you can have KVM, you can have VMware, you can have Hyper-V. But there are a bunch of extremely cool features which are coming with this new release of Hyper-V 2016, which are really nowhere to be found anywhere else. Okay, like shielded VMs and stuff like that. Maybe more to be said. Unfortunately, with this very short time frame, I can definitely not go through that as much as I would. This is basically like a session in a session. Nested virtualizations apply to sessions. Okay, Neutron. We have 2 drivers for Neutron. So the good idea, as I was saying before, is that you can have like, I don't know, 50 Hyper-V boxes, and you can have 50 KVM boxes. A lot of our customers like this approach because they can have like Linux virtual machines running on KVM, and Windows ones running on Windows, okay, perfectly working. Obviously, Linux runs perfectly fine as well on Hyper-V, okay? But this is something that sometimes customers don't, or users don't understand, okay? So they prefer, okay, we are very comfortable with our existing environment, so we don't want to force them to just move, you know, to something like completely not familiar. So for networking, we support VLAN, flat networking, local, and VGRE, and most important, we work together with an ML2 plugin, right? So you can have, for example, OVS mechanism drivers working together with a Hyper-V one. So the same tenant can have machines, virtual machines, containers or bare metal and so on KVM or whatever else, and at the same time having also the other VMs running on Hyper-V. And they will just communicate among each other, thanks actually to Neutron Works behind the scene, right? OpenVSwitch on Hyper-V. We did an enormous amount of work, and sorry again for going so fast, but there is really a lot to talk about. And Ben is going to kill me if I don't pass the microphone back because he's going to close the session. He's the one going over time. We ported OpenVSwitch to Windows. How many of you guys use OpenVSwitch? Okay.
I have a couple of hands.
Okay, on this side, nobody?
No, there's one person over there.
Okay, good. Perfect. So OpenVSwitch is somehow, you know, the de facto SDN solution, right? So we decided, okay, let's port it to Hyper-V to make sure that as many people as possible can use it, you know, in the same identical way in which we use it in KVM, NSX, or other environments. Actually, we did all this work together with VMware, and it's actually entirely available upstream as part of the OpenVSwitch project. We are the second contributors to the OpenVSwitch project, okay? After VMware, of course. Again, available. Just go on the link on that you see here. You can download an installer that will do all the work for you. This way, you can also have VXLAN, you can have GRE, and whatever else OVS is offering you. Cinder, very fast on this thing. We have also Cinder volume drivers for SMB3, which is most probably the best way in which you can consume storage on Hyper-V, okay? So including also all the crazy acceleration I can have with SMB Direct, RDMA, and so on. Plus iSCSI, so we have also an iSCSI driver. Does this mean that you need our Windows Cinder volume driver to use Hyper-V? No, you can just use Hyper-V and any iSCSI Cinder volume driver, okay, behind. And in the near future, also Fiber Channel. Okay, Keystone and Active Directory. This is actually quite interesting. So lots of companies use Active Directory, right? So it's an extremely popular and very good and familiar identity solution. So there is a driver for Keystone, a backend, to be more exact, to handle Active Directory. So you can have just all your tenants, users, and so on, integrated in Active Directory and available in your OpenStack environment. So if you do a Keystone user list, you will have a user. If you try to log in Horizon, you can just use your Active Directory user, okay?
Yeah, and the great thing, this fact, the Active Directory is third most common, actually comes from the super user poll that the OpenStack guys have
yeah.
done.
That's actually great. Also, the CERN guys in particular are using it. It's also part of the super user community. More Windows OpenStack support. We have also a Ceilometer compute agent, okay, so a so-called inspector. So you can get all the metrics. We were actually the second hypervisor to support this after KVM. And Manila is coming as well. So Windows file servers are extremely common. Think about SMB, no? And it will be available as part of the Manila project, exactly as the other solution that you can find today. Okay, very quickly, Windows as a guest. So you might not want to use Hyper-V because you're familiar with your other hypervisor choice, but most probably you might want to have Windows workloads on top of it, okay? So Windows workloads works exactly like the Linux ones, okay? So if you're not familiar with Windows, well, we have all the tools to automate the deployments, including trial images, which are available on our website, so cloudbase.it, and you can find everything, okay? You can just download it, take them, put them in Glance, and you're ready to go. Those images are only for evaluation, so you have to accept a license in which you say that you will use it only in an OpenStack environment for evaluation. But the good thing is that you can afterwards go and build your own images very easily.
Yes, we do like to make money off of selling Windows.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Orchestration. The good thing about a cloud like an OpenStack cloud is that you can make some crazy things on top of it, and you don't have to right-click and click on everything just to make it install, or just go on a Linux image, and start, command line, copy-paste every single line. The good idea is that you have orchestration, which does all this work for you. And we did all this orchestration support for Windows in the form of heat templates for Active Directory, SQL Server, SharePoint, Exchange, and so on, okay? So every major type of Windows workload, okay? And on top of that, we have also Juju Charms, which mirror the same feature. We are very pleased with all the work that we do with Canonical, and you should check out our charms because they're simply amazing. Okay, I shouldn't be the guy saying it, but you should try them. Last thing, we found a lot of people which have problems in setting up their OpenStack cloud. For example, how many of you found the first time when you deployed actually an OpenStack cloud an easy process? Okay. Zero hand as I was expecting.
I found it easy.
Okay.
It was fun.
Because you use that thing. So we wanted to make, to help actually people joining our community, because otherwise it can be very frustrating. If you spend 3 days trying to fight with Puppet or whatever else, to get something running, or if all you can do is to get some dev stack, which is, meant for developers, not for production, then most probably we need to help out here. So we created a small project called vMagine, whose first goal is actually to make sure that you can take whatever runs Hyper-V, including, for example, your laptop with Windows 8, 8.1, or Windows 10, or Windows Server, or, of course, Hyper-V Server. Just download this thing, run it, and it will install everything for you, okay? All the Linux bits will go in a virtual machines, and everything else will be just deployed on the compute node. So no need to clean anything. You can learn and understand how OpenStack works, and then you can just go on and go with more complex environments, okay? All right. Thanks, Ben. Yeah. We'll
Demo time again?
Yeah, demo time. Here you go.
So actually, to highlight how easy the vMagine project was, I actually have an OpenStack deployment set up here, running on Hyper-V. It was set up using the vMagine tool. All in all, it took me about, I'd say, 2 hours to get this demo set up, and most of that I was watching TV. So this is this is all running locally. I don't have any network connections, but I have Hyper-V running on this laptop. I have OpenStack controller and all the various OpenStack components running in a VM. I've just logged in as admin just to show you that, yep, here's my hypervisors. I have my Hyper-V installation there. And now, because I actually come from an enterprise background, I would never dream of doing a demo as admin. So I'm going to log in as a tenant. And what I've actually done is I've set up myself as a tenant. I've already put some Windows images in Glance. So I can come here, and I'm going to just go ahead and say I want to create some Windows Server images. Let's make them medium. Let's make 3 of them. I'm going to boot from an image. I'm going to grab my Windows Server image, and I'm going to put these on the private network. And that's going to go ahead and provision them to Hyper-V running on the server. It's going to assign IP addresses, boot them up, and get going. So we'll just wait. This will take a minute or two, and we'll be able to log in and connect them. I keep on walking away from the demo and forgetting my mic, and the guy up the back keeps on getting mad at me. So the great thing is, one of the key things here is we're doing this with a lot of Microsoft components, but because of the way OpenStack's built, it's very easy to swap in and out components. You can certainly run Windows as a guest on KVM. You can use mix and match the different components. We've spent a lot of time trying to make sure that all works. I will be open and say that I've set up OpenStack a number of times, and half the time I use Linux-based storage instead of Windows storage. Half the time I use Windows storage. I've never actually had a problem with it, which is absolutely fantastic. So let's see, we've got IP addresses assigned. We'll have a look at those. Let's jump in and have a look at one of these instances. So this is actually all through the Horizon interface. We actually also have RDP proxy. So what you're going to see is we're going to be able to see the desktop of the virtual machine here, which of course, being a demo, it's just decided to take a long time to load. This is the awkward moment when you decide, am I going to wait or am I going to hit refresh? I'm going to be impatient and hit refresh. This will either be a good thing or a bad thing. No. Okay. I will try showing the console only and see if that works better. And of course it just loaded. But here we go. Okay, finally. So I can come in here. I'm going to put in my password. And like that, I've provisioned a bunch of Windows servers running on my OpenStack deployment. They're all hooked up to the network. I can ping them. I can run whatever workloads I want to run on them. So very simple, very easy to set up. And as we said, set up with the vMagine tool. So with that done, let's jump back here. And the next thing I want to talk about, now that I've shown that, is the work we've been doing with Docker integration, and what we've been doing there, and how that's going to feed back into making it easier to run Windows workloads in your OpenStack clouds. Because one of the common things I hear from people who are looking at OpenStack, and actually this is a really good question. How many people here have multiple clouds in their environment today? Seeing a couple of hands. Like, this is actually a common, and actually, how many people have multiple clouds in their environment and are happy about it? We have 2 hands. You are strange people. Most people who I talk to, like, I'm hearing more and more about people having multiple cloud environments, and they're not happy about it because they want to have the same tooling and the same infrastructure. And one of the things we've been hearing from people is like, hey, I'm happy with OpenStack. I really like Docker. I want to use this tooling and infrastructure to get my Windows applications across. And so we've actually been working really closely with the Docker guys. This has been a lot of fun because we've actually been, whenever we talk to people about Docker integration, a lot of people assume that like, oh, this is Microsoft, so you're doing a Docker compatible thing, you're having a Docker compatible API, yada, yada, yada. And I have to spell out, no, we are working on Docker. We have people contributing to the Docker project. Right now, I think Microsoft employee is the 4th highest contributor to Docker. And when we set up Docker with Windows containers, if you actually pull apart our install scripts and look behind the covers, you'll see that what we're doing is we're going off to GitHub and pulling down the latest build of Docker from the Docker GitHub account and running it on Windows. So it is not Docker compatibility, it's full Docker support. Now where this is going to come into play with OpenStack is, of course, all the great projects and work that's going on in OpenStack to allow tenants to provision applications using Docker, like Project Magnum. And I have to say, I was at the OpenStack Summit in Vancouver, and it was a great moment to like have them come on stage and be like, start talking about Project Magnum, and I'm sitting there as the Microsoft guy and being like, this just all builds on Docker, right? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, great, we're cool. Like this will all work. And that's to me, that's one of the big advantages of the work that we're doing to make all this stuff work together. So with that said, let me do a quick demo of what the state of Docker integration is with Windows containers. So for this demo, I actually have 2 virtual machines behind the scenes. I have one virtual machine that's running Ubuntu with Docker installed and configured. I have another virtual machine that's running Windows Server, which has Windows containers, and it has the Docker engine running on there. And then I actually have the Docker client installed on this laptop. I do have a couple of shortcuts set up so that for this demo, I'm going to be switching between those 2 environments. So I have some commands that just rewire the Docker host environment variable and so on. And because I hate mistyping, I also have my little cheat list here. So first, I'm going to switch across and look at my Linux environment. So I can do Docker PS. I don't have any containers running right now. If I do Docker images, you'll see I have the Ubuntu image running there. ipconfig, this is the IP address that I'm running in. And I'm just going to copy and paste this command. And that's going to spin up a Linux container. I now have an Ubuntu container I'm using, interacting with it. This is all natively running inside the Ubuntu virtual machine. I can do ps aux and see the processes in there. So if you've used Docker, you're used to this, and this is all familiar. So I'm going to exit out of here. Now I'm going to switch across to my Windows environment. And all that command's done is just said, hey, Docker host, go look at this different IP address. So once again, Docker PS, I don't have any containers running. But now if I do Docker images, you'll see like, oh, I've got a Windows Server Core image. I also have an ASP.NET 5 image that's a layer that I built on top of that. I can do Docker run and say, let's start a new container using the Windows command prompt. And this is actually spinning up a container, booting it, and I now have a separated instance of Windows ready to go. But to me, the really fun one is actually doing something that you can only do on Windows. So let's use Docker to run an instance of PowerShell in a container. So that's going to come up, and I now have a nice isolated instance of PowerShell that I can run. And we've actually, so as I said, we launched a preview yesterday you can go to msdn.microsoft.com/virtualization. We are actively uploading Docker files with different examples. So I know last night one of my team members uploaded a Docker file for how to spin up IIS servers on demand with this sort of speed and ease. So that's pretty exciting to see come together.
Where was that at?
msdn.microsoft.com/virtualization. We tried to make it as hard as possible. And if you go there, it has all the details on how to get up and running. So we are doing pretty good. We are actually within 5 minutes of getting people back on schedule. That is a small miracle.
Oh, yes. It's okay. If you have more time, I think it's fine.
So first, a couple of rude questions. Mike? I remembered it before he waved his hands at me. So first, a couple of rude questions, and then I'll open for friendly questions. So the first rude question. But you're Microsoft and you have your own cloud stack. Like, what are you doing here? Yes, we do have our own cloud stack, and if you want to talk to me about deploying a full Microsoft solution, I'd love to have that conversation. However, we are also more than happy to be part of any cloud solution you're putting together. And as you've seen here, we're doing a lot of work with different open source frameworks, and it's not, for us, it's not an all or nothing conversation. It's about figuring out what we can do to help you get your apps running in your environment in the way you want them to. The next rude question, but you guys won't support this. Yes, we will. This is actually, I get a bit frustrated about this on a couple of reasons. The first thing to highlight is, and I know that this is contrary to popular belief, Microsoft is not actually a hive mind. We don't all think the same. This is good because it means no one controls how I think, but it's bad because I don't control how other Microsoft employees think. I have heard plenty of reports of various Microsoft sales and field people saying we don't support different configurations and options. The frustrating thing is Microsoft's actually being a leader in the space of cross-platform support. So back in 2008, we were looking at the virtualization space and we said, look, we need to come out with a strong statement that says we support Windows anywhere. And we support any virtualization platform. And we put together this program, the SVVP. It's a Virtualization Platform Validation Program. And you can go to this website and we actually list, it's a staggering amount. It's like pages of different virtualization platforms that we have validated and that we support Windows running on. So do we support Windows running on VMware? Yes. Do we support Windows running on KVM? Yes. Do we support Windows running on Xen? Yes. And there's stuff in, like, there are hypervisors listed there that I didn't even know existed. Like, we support running Windows on a hypervisor that was custom built by Fujitsu that I've never seen in real life. But we have a huge amount of stuff listed there. And if anyone ever says Microsoft doesn't support that, this is the first place to go. The second thing to point out is there are lots of parts of OpenStack and of an OpenStack deployment where we don't have to say we support them because it's a management stack. I work on HyperV. We expose a standards-based management interface. I don't have to go around saying, like, do I support semantic talking to that interface? Do I support EMC talking to that interface? No, like, that's not my problem. So, like, how do I feel about OpenStack controlling HyperV? Fantastic. That's the way we built it. So no one should ever have any concerns about a support statement. The final thing I will say on this is please, if ever a Microsoft employee is giving you grief about supporting an OpenStack environment, you can say, can we add Ben Armstrong to this mail? I'm genuinely serious about that. Please feel free to add me in, and I will happily set the record straight. So
you have a lot of free time, I guess, right?
No, I've just given up on being on top of my email years ago. So with the rude questions, are there any friendly questions? I'd love to answer questions about what we're doing with OpenStack, Docker, open source in general, and virtualization. Sorry, I was going to re-say the question, only you started talking halfway through. What was the...
Will there be a future where there's portability between the containers and the Windows?
So the question was, will there be a future where there's portability between the containers on a Windows host and a Linux host? The short answer is, yeah. The slightly longer answer is, right now today with the state-of-the-art technology around containers, architecturally that's impossible. However, there are a bunch of groups looking at trying to figure out how to advance the technology so that that will be possible. Yeah? Not next Tuesday. Right now today, that's not possible. Keep an eye on that space, though. Any other questions?
Yeah. Can you clarify this? This is going to be in Windows Server 2016, right? The Docker support.
So yep.
To follow on, I believe there's a thing called a Nano server coming out in 2016, and could you go into more detail about that? Does that be like the Core OS?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me jump into that. So the first a little disclosure. I actually work in like a core group at Microsoft. So to me, the fact that there is a desktop version of Windows and a server version of Windows is things that people above me worry about. So we're building containers into the core of the platform. The plan is that we're going to be shipping Windows containers on Windows Server 2016. We're going to have Windows containers and HyperV containers, as I mentioned. You are right that we also have a group working on Windows Nano, which I'm really excited about. It is, our, answer to Core OS. It is a super lightweight version of Windows. We actually have a preview of that out right now. We don't have it working in containers yet. That is something we're dying to do. However, just to do a sales pitch for that, we have, with the technical preview we just put out yesterday, you can now set up a full Windows server running Hyper-V using Nano. It's 500 meg on disk. And it's fully headless. It's just the components that you need to run the server workloads that you need. So we are really excited to be getting Nano, and we've made public statements saying that when we ship 2016, we're going to have both server core containers for application compatibility, but we're going to have Nano containers to provide just an extra level of lightweight, quick deployment. So,
additionally, we are also going to support it fully for Hyper-V. So Nova and Hyper-V will be fully supported on Nano server. Okay.
You actually have that working now, don't you?
Yeah, that's working.
Yeah,
that's in a preview. Okay.
This guy works on Windows Server. I don't.
Nano is just one of, if you think of it in terms of hypervisor, if you have any version of Windows Server, Nano is one of the things that's on the hypervisor. It's not some separate product.
So if you download the TP3 preview, which came out yesterday, you will find also the SKU for Nano on top of it. Okay. Okay.
He's getting picky on you.
Okay.
Just
like you said.
Just there.
Okay. Okay.
So I'll take one more question if there is, and then we'll get off stage for the next person. No more questions? So we'll jump off. Please, we're going to be around afterwards. If you have any questions, we'd love to hear about what you're doing and what we can do to make it easier for you to use Windows in your environment. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.